Anita LaRaia with Wine Groceries. This is the second installment. We're gonna add layers to that onion, or what shall I say, more grape juice. And what I wanna start by saying, the reason that great grapes can make great wine is wine by definition, is the alcohol beverage obtained from the fermentation of freshly harvested grapes. You have to grow a whole new crop of grapes every year. Pick them, harvest them, and make wine out of them. The vintage year on a bottle of wine is the year of harvest. It's not the year the wine was made, because some red wines are in the wineries for 2-3 years or longer. And white wines, yes, they can produce much more quickly, and they can be out of the winery in 6 to 18 months. What I wanted to start with is the 4 important factors. You can't just grow grapes anywhere. They have to be in the wine zones between 50 and 30 degrees north latitude, with the belt going all the way around the continental US, all the way around Europe, and also Russia and China. Yes, the history of winemaking is so ancient. We think it goes back possibly in the mists of time as far as the ancient Chinese. And from there, of course, Georgia in Russia, and of course, Persia in the Middle East was a real center of winemaking, original winemaking. The Phoenicians, the seafaring folk, took the knowledge of wine all over the Mediterranean, and they brought it to the Greeks. The Greeks brought it to the Romans. The Romans were the ones who planted all the great vineyards all over Europe, whether it was Bordeaux in France, or Burgundy in France, or the Mosel in Germany, and so we have to give them credit too. When my dad was raising me, he always used to say, the Romans, the Romans, the Romans. How would I know that for every wine school I taught for 33 years, I had to talk about the Romans planting the great vineyards of Europe? So, thank you, Dad. And I gotta say that the quality factors are, you can't just plant grapes anywhere. The soil is important. Chalky soil in Champagne, which I talked about in our first set of 6 videos, particularly in the very first one about champagne and sparkling wines, and also gravel in Bordeaux. The grapes need very well-drained soil. They need to struggle their roots in these very harsh soils, because it picks up all the minerals and it puts them into the grapes. Grapes have very unusual antioxidants, polyphenols, which are very good, and they are all organic, of course. They have manganese, a very rare mineral that you find in certain red soils in Burgundy, France. In fact, we're going to talk a lot about the soils. There was a great winery, and there still is, Diamond Creek in California, that used to use Cabernet Sauvignon planted in 3 different soils. The gravelly meadow Cabernet Sauvignon, which was gravel like Bordeaux, ended up tasting with black currants or cassis. Remember when I talked about Big Spender in my previous video number 4? And I said the smell and taste in a great Cabernet Sauvignon or a Bordeaux blend with those 5 red Bordeaux grapes would smell like black currants, cassis we call it, deep red, deep blue actually, berries, wonderful flavor. Now the 3rd soil that the Diamond Creek people had was called Red Rock Terrace. And it was the same kind of soil as in Burgundy, France. And even though it was the same winery, the same winemaker, the same Cabernet Sauvignon, it came out a much lighter style, like a Burgundy, which is a much lighter style of red, usually made from Pinot Noir. And then the 3rd soil they had was called Volcanic Hill. The volcanic soil was similar to some of the great vineyards in Italy. And so that wine came out with some aromas of violets or licorice, like some of the great Italian reds. And I did talk about Italian wines in video number 5 in the previous videos. We're going to talk also about geography. You got to have sun exposure. The best is when the sun rises due east, okay, or slightly southeast. All the great vineyards are positioned that way. You've got to have the right amount of rainfall, but not too much. And you have to avoid what we have today, which is climate change. You've got wildfires in some of the greatest vineyard areas, not just in California, but elsewhere. You've got hail in Chablis, France, and Burgundy, one of the greatest white Burgundies made from 100% Chardonnay, grown in very rare limestone soil, so it picks up a lime in the taste. Well, they just had a huge hailstorm that destroyed some of their great vineyards. So we have to be careful. What's happening now is that some of the wineries, like Taittinger in Champagne, Taittinger in French, they are growing grapes in England to make sparkling wine. You'd think England was too cold, but it is a cool weather grape, Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And we have great sparkling wine from England, made by one of these famous French champagne houses, Taittinger. Yes, Queen Elizabeth II drank it, and I'm sure the royal family continues to. Okay, I want to point out a sports connection. Kendall Jackson wines here on this kind of a bookshelf, what we call an end cap in the grocery stores. They've got everything from an 85 calorie, low calorie wine. Can you believe it? It's a Chardonnay. Yes, and it has only like 3 grams of carbohydrates. Now most wine actually is dry, made dry, and so it's not going to have a lot of carbs or a lot of calories, particularly the reds. They also have what they call an Avant unoaked Chardonnay. Unoaked, that means it's made all in stainless steel. So it does not pick up the oaky, tasty, toasty, buttery flavors of an oaked Chardonnay. Many of the greatest Chardonnays are oaked. In fact, they go through a second fermentation called malolactic. By the way, that's an incredible price. Usually these are $17.99 a bottle. And this Kendall Jackson Winery is one of the originals in California, founded by Just Jackson. Now his wife, Barbara Banke, has taken over, and they have tremendous estate wines as well. All kinds of different single vineyard. If they're more specific about where the grapes were grown, not just the country, not just the region, not just the district, not just the village, but a single little vineyard. In France, in Italy, and Spain, this is a big deal. And they put the name, particularly in France, of the single vineyard. And they rate them. Grand Crus are the best in Burgundy. Next best are Premier Crus. And we want to continue our little wine lesson. Don't forget, soils, climate, geography, exposure to the sun, the rain, and of course, the grape variety. You can't just plant all the grapes in all the same types of areas. They have particular characteristics that show up better in the taste profile of the wine, depending on where they're grown. Now, I also want to say their regular Chardonnay is called the Vintner's Reserve, and it is America's #1 selling Chardonnay at retail for the last 30 years. Very well made wine. The winery is located in one of the famous North Coast counties above San Francisco called Sonoma. Santa Rosa is the area, but they also own vineyards all the way down the Pacific coast, including some very, very expensive cult wines. Now, when I said sports was involved, the NBA just made Kendall Jackson wines the official wine of the NBA. And lo and behold, I'm going to see if I can back up a little bit here. Lo and behold, one of the wineries they own is called La Crema. La Crema. And they make fantastic Pinot Noir in a particular area of Sonoma County called Russian River Valley. Russian River Valley's Pinot Noirs are fantastic. They have a lot of jammy fruit, but a lot of finesse, but they're also powerhouse wines. So we're going to show you those bottles in just a second. And we're going to mosey on through all the aisles of this wine department. It's in the Kroger wine store on Dunwoody Club Drive in Sandy Springs, Georgia. Why did I pick this wine department? You're gonna see as I go up and down the aisles. It has everything from box wine to $122 cult Cabernet Sauvignon from Napa. They even had to put an alarm on it because I see they only have one bottle left, which means somebody was taking it, hopefully ringing it up with the register. Okay, this is enough for now. Let's take a little break. Let me get back down the aisle. Thank you.